Over the last century, I'd say, the recognition, and especially over the last 30 to 40 years, the recognition of how much our growth and prosperity is dependent upon the seas has been permeating across the polity, across the public. A watermark actually was, I'd say, two key points. The first was the tsunami, 2004. At that particular event, within 36 hours, the Indian Navy deployed 27 ships and 5,000 personnel. And we pushed it across from Andamans to Sri Lanka to Maldives. Maldives, we had a task force out there within 48 hours, which stayed on station for 2 months, while we ourselves were facing a challenge. There onwards, of course, 2611, where the realization came in that your coastal security forces, the Coast Guard, was still too meager and small. Coast Guard has immensely grown. That was a watershed moment. The recognition that you need to grow the Coast Guard was there since the Kargil Review Committee and the group of ministers. In 2001, they had enunciated a plan, but that plan was hardly had moved forward by 2005-6 when this was coming out. 2005-6 when it was sanctioned. By 2008, the Coast Guard is only at about 45 vessels, I think, or 65 vessels and about 45 aircraft. Today, they are close to 155 vessels and about 85 aircraft. And I'm quite sure they will cross 2 centuries, 200 in both of these. So it is that watershed point where you suddenly realize how vulnerable you are to the seas. The third, almost at the same time, was the piracies. When the piracy hit, the economic impact of that piracy, especially when it spread, then we acted only within the Gulf of Aden. That's why I put that slide up for you, furthest line of piracy. Immediately the piracy had spread out, it reached up to our EZ. We suddenly started finding that the entire traffic started coming into our zone, started impacting our fishing, started impacting our livelihood because people were not cutting across the Arabian Sea. Pirate attacks also started falling where the money trail was, that is the ships, they started carrying out attacks right at the edge of our EZ. So the realization and recognition that came in, what is the figure? The World Bank estimated about $18 billion a year. Impact of it is being felt by us. The insurance costs even now, yes, a $400 insurance for per container has gone to $4,000. Movement between here and Europe. So the economic costs and implications of realizing, when traditionally people start calculating money in guns and butter, the debate really then starts shifting to the granary and the watch guard.